In the summer of 1812, Napoleon Bonaparte launched the most ambitious military campaign in history. Over 500,000 soldiers, a grand army drawn from across Europe, marched east into Russia, confident in victory. They were disciplined, well-equipped, and unstoppable. But they would soon face a force far greater than any army: the brutal Russian winter. What began as a campaign for glory would end in horror. Most of these men would never return. And Napoleon, the master of strategy, would learn a deadly lesson, not from the battlefield, but from the snow. The Grande Armée was not just French. It was a multinational force. Germans, Italians, Poles, Swiss, united under Napoleon's banner. They marched with confidence through Europe. Thousands of wagons, hundreds of cannons, and a seemingly endless column of men. Villages trembled as the army passed. Rivers were bridged, forests cleared, roads carved. Russia, at first, offered little resistance. Instead of standing and fighting, the Russian generals ordered retreat after retreat, drawing Napoleon deeper into the vast, unforgiving land. It was a tactic of exhaustion. Burn the fields, poison the wells, starve the invaders. Napoleon called it cowardice. But the Russians were setting a trap, one that would be sprung by nature itself. After endless weeks of marching, hunger, and exhaustion, after crossing forests, rivers, and fields littered with the dead, Napoleon finally reached the heart of Russia. Moscow, a name that echoed like a victory drum through the ranks of his army. But as they approached, something was wrong. The city was silent. Streets were deserted, windows broken, doors wide open. The people were gone. And then came the smoke. At first, a distant haze, then rising columns. Flames spread like a curse through the city. Fires erupted from rooftops, alleys, churches, some set by Russian saboteurs, others perhaps by desperate locals. Within hours, the capital of Russia was an inferno. The sky glowed red for days. French soldiers, expecting shelter and supplies, wandered helplessly through the blaze, choking on ash and disbelief. There was no treasure, no surrender, only fire and frost. Napoleon took shelter in the Kremlin, surrounded by ruins. He waited for envoys, for food, for terms of peace. But none came. And as the smoke cleared, the first snowflakes began to fall. Each flake a quiet warning. Time was running out. The army that had conquered nations now sat idle, in a burning graveyard of their own ambitions. Moscow was not a prize. It was the beginning of the end. As the fires of Moscow faded and the cold began to bite, Napoleon gave the order that would seal his army's fate: retreat. But what followed was not an organized withdrawal. It was chaos. The once mighty Grand Army, proud and disciplined, now moved like a wounded beast across a frozen wasteland. Temperatures plunged to -30 degrees Celsius. Soldiers wrapped rags around their feet. Horses dropped dead in the snow, leaving cannons behind. Food was gone. Men ate bark from trees, leather from saddles, even the flesh of fallen comrades. Frostbite blackened fingers and toes. Eyelids froze shut during sleep, and those who stopped to rest often never rose again. The wind howled louder than the enemy, but the Russians did not stay silent for long. Cossack cavalry swept in like ghosts, fast and merciless, picking off stragglers, surrounding isolated units, cutting deep into the ranks. There were no safe roads, no warm camps, no hope. Panic set in. Some soldiers threw down their weapons, others fought over crumbs. Discipline collapsed. Humanity eroded. The retreat had become a death march, a journey through a white hell where every step forward meant leaving another friend behind. Napoleon watched his empire unravel, not by enemy fire, but by hunger, frost, and silence. As the shattered remnants of the Grand Army dragged themselves westward, Napoleon made his choice. He abandoned them. Riding ahead to Paris, he left tens of thousands behind in the snow. Out of 500,000 men, fewer than 50,000 survived. They returned with no glory, no spoils, only frostbite, scars, and silence. There had been no final battle, just cold, hunger, and nature, silent, merciless, had done what no army could. Napoleon's legend cracked, his power shaken. The Russian campaign was more than a military failure. It was a human catastrophe, proof that even the greatest of empires can be brought to their knees by winter.